can move forward. All right, so let's see. Very first thing, we've recorded the meeting. Great. Status updates. Cool. I guess for status updates, right now working backwards, going through, reviewing some PRs. I know Sam has added a few, or at least one that I could recall. Joe has the new build pack command that I just added some feedback on for acceptance. Then there's been some issues that have been lingering in triage status. We got notified by Emily yesterday, so took care of a lot of those this morning and just kind of pinged people around that. Outside of that, we did publish. Well, I don't know if that's really the term. We basically created the PRs for the Tecton catalog for the 2 tasks and the 1 pipeline. There doesn't seem to be a lot of action necessary on the tasks. I think those will go in soon. But the pipeline, they've requested that we add some tests for it. The only thing is that there's no test harness for it right now in the catalog repo. So I'm gonna try to see how difficult that is. But I think it might be worthwhile to get that done. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for me. Any other status updates?
I guess I have a first pass at creating asset cache images. Also kind of going along with that theme of cleaning up some of the issues and PRs we have. Doing that.
Cool, appreciate it. Terrence, I'm assuming you don't have anything to add here?
I don't think so. I think the only recent thing I did was put in the RFC on project descriptor stuff, which is about like potentially moving to the reverse domain idea that we talked about.
Oh, interesting.
We'll see how that
Cool.
goes out in
Yeah,
working group.
sounds good. Maybe we could talk a little bit as a precursor here.
Sure.
Release planning. There's nothing there. Like I said, we're still a little bit stuck on Tecton side, and Pack, I believe, is going to release the 17th. So we still got a little bit of time to do that. We might need to look at the milestone and see what, how to really prioritize that, maybe punt some things out to the next release. Dan, feel free to, contribute to that. I'll also take a look. Cool. All right, next, RFCs. So you said, Terrence, the RFC that you were referring to, is that already on here?
It's in the RFC list, but I've not put it on the agenda.
Is it labeled platform?
I don't think so, because I just, oh, did I not? I thought I undrafted this, but I guess not. Convert. Where's the button to undraft something?
Think by the merge button. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a ready for review.
Yeah, I don't think it's labeled because it hasn't gone through the Wednesday working group shenanigans. But do we want to talk about it? I don't know how much impacts this team. I guess it does to some degree because it's the descriptor file and it's a platform. It has to process and read it.
Yeah. Feel free, take it away.
Let me share. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Cool. So the idea we talked about that Steven suggested was moving basically kind of the Buildpacks specific stuff into a reverse domain. So then as we change our schema for that, it would not basically impact kind of anything else. And it would be under our own namespace without, I feel like my previous flexible project descriptor RFC had the problem of it felt very limiting for us, because if we ever wanted to take over other top level keys, like it could break other kind of folks who decide to take advantage of that flexibility. So this allows us to kind of live in our own namespace. And then like, here's an example of me just taking the fly.io thing and kind of exampling it out. Obviously they don't do it like this, but they could then have their own reverse domain of stuff where all their fields would live under there. And so this also allows us to then version our own schema as that changes. And so we could, through the work we have of someday validating the schemas we have, we could have a schema specific to the IO Buildpack space. The same with like any other namespace out there as well. So it could do that. And then as a project, I guess we could basically check for this key to see if they're doing like the old style / new style as we move towards 1.0. And then I had some other open questions around whether project, I felt like project should remain as a thing that's independent. It didn't seem to be a Buildpack specific thing, especially related to building the thing. And I don't, as far as I know, Pack still doesn't really use anything in here, right?
I don't think so. If anything, maybe source URL might have been the closest, but I don't think that ever got implemented.
Do you use anything for any of the labels? No, right?
No.
Okay. So yeah, that was kind of one of the reasons I kind of kept it out, because we aren't really using it as a project, but it exists. It seems to kind of transcend stuff that's specific to builds. And then the other question I think that came up last time is, should this be a table at like this, where IO is a table, then Buildpacks is a table? Or should it be like a quoted string where it's like IO Buildpacks? I think there's potentially some advantage for doing either there, but happy to hear feedback on that.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's the RFC for that.
So I am curious, like I honestly, I guess I don't have an opinion on whether it's a quoted string or a nested table. I think part of it might be just mostly semantics or appearance, right? But as far as the API goes, right, I noticed the API and it was O2, and I'm wondering why that wouldn't be at the, or maybe I should rephrase it this way. The project TOML schema is changing from what we have right now, right, from O1 to O2. And I wonder why that's being applied at the io.buildpacks level versus the top level.
I think there's, so in the spec changes section at the bottom, I think there's actually 2 version numbers there. I don't know if 0.2 is the right one. Maybe it is 0.1. But I think there's one that is the project descriptor schema, which is basically making the change of like, it's going to reverse notation, but then I think that should not define necessarily for that schema, like what belongs in io.buildpacks. And I think there then is a separate new version. So maybe 0.1 is the right number there. That is, this is what belongs in the io Buildpack space. And so my hope and thought is that then each kind of namespace or reverse domain thing can then, if they want to, have their own version or schema, but then the project descriptor basically backs out of kind of what belongs in each thing, but then kind of only defines, I think, like project, and then the fact that we are moving to that reverse domain notation, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, that totally makes sense. So it seems like we're both on the same page that the top level needs an API version, right?
Yeah.
And then
Do you want
Sorry.
do you want a version field in the top? Probably, right?
I think so, right? Being this is the second iteration, like I think for a platform, I guess we could kind of try to parse it in different ways and see which one fits. But like the pattern we've used for all the other TOML files is we look at that API version and then determine, how to parse it. And I think that's easier for everybody to deal with.
Cool.
Yeah, and then on the API inside of the domain objects, I guess, that's optional, right? And that's just a preference that our project is going with and not something that we're asking others to also follow.
Right. Yeah. Like, I think it's highly encouraged, but yeah, I can clarify that it should be optional. I mean, obviously we will publish a set of stuff that we expect to be there in our own spec and what those versions as we change them. And hopefully if other folks do it, like I know I'm talking internally in our company at Salesforce, if we adopted a thing like that, like I know we probably would want to follow suit of like, as we change that stuff, it should be publicly documented and have the thing.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. I like it personally. All right.
Yeah. The biggest con for me is just how verbose it is, but I think it feels very clean in comparison.
I mean, the added benefit here, though, is that hopefully more projects start incorporating or adding their configuration to a single file, right? And moving in that direction. Cool. All right. Anything else on that one? Okay. I know we have package refactoring. That one's still in draft. Dan, did you have anything you'd like to do on that one here in this meeting?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like this is the place where we should probably talk about this before it ever makes it to the RFC. So, or makes it to the like wider working group meeting. I think there's been some changes and some comments on this. I don't know if people have had a chance to look over this, but I think that the one last sticking point is whether or not we're going to just pull out the like binaries that we would like to see at some point in the future, right? I'm wondering what thoughts are on there, and I can share my screen if that'll help give some context here. But here we go. Yeah, so I think that this stuff can probably potentially go, but it does in some sense got our thinking about what the structure of our packages should be if we ever want to get to a place where these are like easy components to pull out into their own commands. I'm happy to just pull them out, but wondering what people's thoughts are.
So, if I recall correctly, I think Emily and I added some comments around this. And just,
Yes.
just I guess to add or elaborate on it, is the way I envision this is like a promotion kind of strategy, right? Where we have a whole bunch of stuff in internal that could probably be cleaned up and promoted into this like package domain, right? Things that could other like programs then incorporate as dependencies and use within their application, right? And then if like that is phase one or step one, right? Like I think once we see the demand, like, individual projects asking for very specific things, then we could put them into this like open public package or PKG domain, right? And then if we see that, a certain area grows to a certain level that requires its own set of, management or maintenance, I think like one of them would be archive, right? Archive is something that I think we've realized isn't specific enough for Pack, but it's more or less used across multiple other things, or at least we have something very similar for lifecycle and image util, then maybe that's something that could, be moved up or promoted into that area, right? So like, I think that would be like phase 2, right? Where it becomes its own either separate repo or it moves into a whole different project. So that's one thought. The other thing is, as I'm writing the Tecton task, there's a couple things like, parsing environment variables and stuff like that, that right now I'm doing in Bash that I feel like I'm gonna want to put into some like Go program, right? And then put them into some image. So like you could envision a Buildpacks Tecton image that has a whole bunch of little tiny utilities. And then these tiny utilities, I think, kind of go back to this like idea of these are common shared things that we use across maybe multiple platforms. And it would be nice to, again, be able to leverage, whether like right now, I guess for Tecton, I could import pack, right? But maybe we don't want to do that and we want a different strategy. But it would be a very good first step for me to be able to import stuff from pack into this Tecton utilities package. So again,
Yeah,
that's where
okay.
my mindset's at. But yeah, I don't know exactly where we're wanting to end up with this specific RFC.
Yeah, that's I kind of agree, right? Which is like I think that that intention is more useful than any actual structure that we're gonna like write out on paper right now, right? I totally agree with that. Okay. I can just like make that kind of the more focal point of this. Because yeah, I think that probably debating exactly what this like looks like with this file tree is not a super meaningful, good use of everyone's time. But
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the changing the focal point to be more the thought process and the vision would be more, you know, in line with what we're really looking to do. I do think that the visual representation is helpful, but maybe, either annotate that it's like very abstract, right? Or maybe think about what we want to do for like, the first step, right? Like after we close this RFC, what are we going to do like immediately, right? And then maybe some supporting, very future looking structure, and maybe having two, right? Like this is where we want to be right after this RFC, and this is what we can envision like very long term would also
yeah.
help.
Okay. All right, awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely can definitely do that.
Cool, thank you.
And this
Anything
is our
else?
first
Oh, sorry.
sub-team RFC, right?
Uh First that I've
Yes.
seen.
Yeah, I don't think we've solidified that process yet, Terrence. I'm not sure exactly like we could say that, but we're definitely trying to move in that direction. I just recall some.
Right.
Say that again.
That's why Daniel's here to make it happen.
Yep.
No, yeah, this seems great. Thanks for putting it together. I think under the stuff Javier said, I think like maybe the how it works section could definitely help illustrate like kind of next step actions laid out that way.
Oh, all right, 100%. Thanks.
Cool. And looking at the rest of the RFCs, it looks like all the other ones are in FCP, so I'm not sure that they're worth discussing right now. I mean, I think it's past that point. So I think we're done with that. Okay, moving on to another thing. Discussions needed for pack issues. Share my screen real quick. So maybe we could start from the bottom and just start looking at these with however much time we have left. So this is verbose mode activating GGCR debug logging. So we already have a log level that we pass on to the lifecycle, right? Like this is pretty old, but assuming that we already have the log level debug, this would just be getting GGCR to also display debug information. Do we even know what the GGCR debug information looks like?
There's like 3 loggers you can set up, and it can go from just errors to all of the like traffic between you and a registry that isn't blob, like just a humongous blob getting plopped on your screen. So
Yeah, I don't see that being very useful for just a verbose mode, right? I think it would be too much on the other side.
yeah, it's a lot.
Maybe for this one, we just need a clarification of exactly what it is that we need. Dan, it sounds like you have a little bit of knowledge as to what the options are. Do you mind at least adding those to this issue?
Yep, will do.
Cool, awesome. Okay, and we have 3 minutes left. What is this? Append.cmd package to files created using package build pack. I don't see any problem with this. I guess I don't know why the discussion is necessary. Just do it, ship it.
Yeah,
Ship it.
say ready.
Status. Love it. There you go.
Nice.
All right. Ooh, this one's a big one. I have a lot of thoughts on this one. So just some background here, right? So right now, the source of truth for what suggested builders are is inside of pack, right? And this isn't the first time. I could think of, at least for the Tecton documentation, where we want to like say like, hey, what are the possible options for this builder parameter? And we say, here are some suggested ones, right? And I'm having to like extract those from pack, like do some, pack suggest builders and then like extract the data or parse the data out. And then there was another place, for the build pack registry, right? Same thing, like we have stacks, but we don't have a way to associate the stack ID that a build pack uses to what builders they can then use these build packs with. So again, in the back of my head, like it's nagging me, and that I feel that we need some sort of builder registry, right? Or we need to incorporate builders into the registry in some sort of way that we could then query it. And I think that brings up like a bigger kind of worms in regards to trusted builders and how that works within pack. So again, kind of just throwing this idea out there. Any other thoughts on it?
Are you suggesting to add builder information into the index? Or not builder, stack information index? Is it not there? I forget if we include it or not.
We don't include the stacks like where the images reside, right? Like we do for build packs. And what I'm suggesting is to even take it a step further. The stacks as well as the builders, and then denote whether builders are quote unquote trusted. And I think it might be, an argument that could be made as to whether or not we should be the ones that dictate that notation, but we're already doing it. So whether or not it's the right thing to do, I feel like we need to solve that for what we're currently doing, which is we're already suggesting builders. So what's the difference if we suggest the builders in pack or if we suggest the builders in, the registry? We are out of time. So what I will say is I will probably add a requires an RFC label to this and then actually like formulate an RFC that goes more in depth and we could present with a broader community.
Cool. Sounds good. We're happy to workshop it again in here.
Awesome. Cool. All right. I think that brings us to the end. Any last minute burning comments?
We're going to be doing CMB roadmap stuff. So if you want to pipe anything else into that, Daniel, this would be the good time. I think we're meeting tomorrow. So.
Okay.
All right. Awesome. Thank you all. See you later.